Believe in LA Football Podcast.
Touchdown Rams! Touchdown UCLA! Recovered by the Chargers. The Trojans back in front.
With your hosts, the Coach and the Don, part of the Believe Podcast Network, LA's #1 sports podcast network.
What's up, delegates? And welcome back to the Believe in LA Football Podcast with your hosts, the Coach and the Don, here on the Believe Podcast Network, also on LAFBnetwork.com, your destination for Los Angeles football. Coach, how you doing, man?
Hey, doing all right. How's it going over there?
Going good, going good. Happy Monday to everyone out there listening. Tough weekend for professional Los Angeles football. We'll get to that here in a second. Yeah, Coach. Other than that, I'm doing good, though. Thank you.
Yeah, well, good. Good to hear.
So we'd love to hear from you out there. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast, Believe in LA Football, wherever you listen to podcasts. We are everywhere you listen, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, all that good stuff. Make sure to reach out to us. We'd love to talk. We are both on Twitter. You can find the Coach at the Coach LAFB. You can find me at Ryan Dyrud LAFB or our main account, LAFB Network. Or if you're not on Twitter, if you're not on social media, shoot us an email. You can reach us at podcast@lafbnetwork.com. Love to hear your questions, thoughts, maybe read it on the air. So, yeah, Coach, tough weekend, but we do have some good news to talk about. We're going to talk a little bit today about Graham Harrell, the offensive coordinator for the Trojans, just announced he will not be leaving for Texas. He is re-signing with the Trojans. I think you and you are probably in agreement that that's a good thing, but we'll get to that here in a second. Then we'll get to our Chargers and Rams reviews of their tough losses, and then finally end with our next LA XFL Wildcat profile, and we're going to profile Sean Oakman. But before we get into talk about Graham Harrell, I want to talk a little bit with you about sleep. There's been studies from Harvard and Johns Hopkins, kind of two big deals in the university world, about chronic sleep deprivation and how it's shown to lead to depression, diabetes, obesity, and cardiovascular disease. Plain and simple, we need 8 hours of sleep. So what's one of sleep's biggest problems? Temperature. It's tough to get good sleep if you're too hot. I want to tell you about the Pod by 8 Sleep. The Pod by 8 Sleep is a high-tech bed designed specifically to help you achieve optimal sleep fitness. It was developed by sleeping researchers after tracking 43 million hours of sleep. It combines dynamic temperature regulation and sleep tracking to enhance your rest and recovery. So it learns your sleep habits and adjusts the temperature automatically. Pretty simple. That means if you like your bed cool and your partner likes the bed warm, now you can have both at the same time in a crazy comfortable bed. So now you can sleep longer and deeper so you wake up refreshed and ready to take on the day. You can try the Pod for 100 nights. That's 100 nights. And if you don't love it, they'll refund your purchase and arrange a free pickup. Talk about hassle-free. They already sold out the first 2 batches, so they are going fast. And for a limited time, you can get $150 off your purchase when you go to 8sleep.com/pro. That's EIGHT sleep.com/pro. 8sleep.com/pro. Check it out today. All right, Coach. So let's get right into this Graham Harrell news. Just broke today. We're recording on Monday. If you're listening, it might be Tuesday for you, but just broke. Harrell's returning to USC for a 3-year deal worth $3.6 million. What's your initial thoughts on this?
They clearly wanted to keep him around. They like what he's doing. They like the atmosphere he's creating. I know he's gotten a lot of support from like Keaton Slovis and there's a lot of talk going on that Graham Harrell was pivotal in the growth of Keaton Slovis. So obviously he's got a good reputation building around him. So USC clearly wanted to go out and make it a point to make it known he wasn't going away that easy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the last thing we talked about after, it was announced Clay Helton was coming back, that I think it was super important to try and keep Harrell around. And if he was going to leave for Texas, that would just be, however you thought about Helton, this would have been even worse if they also lost Harrell in the process. So a huge move to bring him back. He came out and said earlier. He was quoted saying, "It's a really special place, and we've built something really special here. Excited to compete one more time with the team we have coming back at the Holiday Bowl, and moving forward, we've laid the foundation to compete for championships, not only at the Pac-12 level, but at the national level. We're excited to be here, and I can't wait to continue what we started." So, I'm definitely excited. I think what he's done on offense is truly remarkable, and I think what this really does, though, is it just finally brings some stability, at least in Clay Helton's corner, where that's basically been a question mark surrounding his entire tenure with the Trojans.
Yeah, no, that continuity is huge. It's going to help with recruiting, and with Graham Harrell only being around 1 year, who knows how much of the offense of his they actually have exposed yet. So, the longer he's around USC and the more these kids can learn from his offense, the better it'll be. Yeah,
I think he's such a young coach, too, that, this is kind of the tip of the iceberg. We could see him improve in his coaching and what he's able to bring, and his offensive mind could still be growing. And, this could just set up USC even for the future, not looking too far ahead. And, right now Clay Helton is the coach, but this is something that could set them up for, who knows if Harrell down the line can maybe take over the reins, or even just on a personal level for Harrell, building a brand here at USC to set himself up, obviously, to be a head coach one day in college football.
Yeah, there's a lot to like about this and not a whole lot to complain about. This has probably been the best thing that Bone's done since he's been here.
Yeah, and I'm glad they just did it before the bowl game. Just, get it done. Have no more talk and speculation about him going to Texas, back to his hometown. Keep him with the Trojans, and now we get to look forward to the Holiday Bowl, which is going to be here before we know it. Just, what is that, next week? I know it's the 27th. We're about 11 days from now.
Yeah, it's right around the corner.
So we'll preview that probably next week as the 22-ranked Trojans will face the, I believe, 19-ranked Hawkeyes. Should be a good game, but Harrell here to stay, at least for the next 3 years, and the 34-year-old is certainly building his resume, and we hope to continue to watch him build the Trojans a record, and whether it's Keaton Slovis or Daniel, help them continue to groom as quarterback of this franchise or this university and this organization. So good news. I all around good news. I don't think there's anyone out there, if you're upset about this, I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah. See, yeah, they're just looking for anything to be upset about.
I think so, which I think a lot of Trojan fans unfortunately do right now, especially with Helton being there. But hey, this is a good thing, so let's rejoice in that. Something good to come about for the Trojans. So, but now moving on to the to Pro Football Ranks, where not a lot of good to talk about. Coach, the Chargers. We'll get to the Rams too. Both teams, just bad. This Chargers game. I'll let you just kind of jump into it first, and we'll go through. I basically listed all their turnovers, but I'll let you start. What were your initial thoughts on this 39-10 blowout by the Vikings?
Yeah, the Chargers never seemed to be in it. They just came out flat from the get-go. And then any time where you come out after halftime and don't score a single point, that raises a lot of questions. What are you doing in the locker room I don't know. That's something to look at here, where you score 10 in the first half and then you don't score at all in the second. That's a problem. That's a problem. That's going to be a big problem down the road if it doesn't get rectified. But yeah, I just felt like this was never really a game. I thought Minnesota was going to walk away with this one from the second I started watching it.
Yeah, I don't disagree that they looked flat straight out of the gate. But sadly, even with them looking flat, this was a 2-point game with 2 minutes left in the first half. It was 12-10. And so for how bad they have been playing through almost all of 2 quarters, for a Chargers team that we know has some offensive firepower, some weapons, it was really the thought when I was kind of watching this, like, okay, now is when they get it going. They had the ball with 2 minutes left. Whether they go down and kick a field goal to take the lead, or even if they get no points, just go into the half, down to regroup, come out, and we'll see hopefully a different group come out of that. And then you have Rivers in those last 2 minutes throw a pick six, or throws a pick at the 50, but Minnesota has all 3 timeouts. And then guess what? Then Melvin Ingram gets an interception. So then with 45 seconds left, they get another opportunity to change the score, and then Rivers gets sacked, and a fumble is recovered and taken all the way back for a score with 7 seconds left to go into the half at 19-10. So even at that, you're like, okay, that was a horrible kind of 2 offensive possessions, but the defense is still kind of keeping this keeping them in this game with now it being 19-10. And then you come out of the half, okay, let's turn it around. Let's go down, get points out of this, whether we get a field goal or a touchdown. What happens, Coach? Gordon fumbles on the first play, his second fumble of the game. And then, he get points out of that. And then, just basically that just set up the entire half of just absolutely abysmal play. On the next possession, the Chargers go 3 and out. They go to punt. Their punt's blocked. And then on their next offensive possession, they finally have a good offensive drive, but then they turn the ball over on downs on 4th and 14 in the red zone. And then after that, you have a Hunter Henry fumble. You have 2 more Rivers interceptions. Basically, it all boils down to 7 turnovers, a blocked punt, and a turnover on downs for just an absolutely horrific offensive performance.
Yeah. I mean, even if it's hard to believe unless you saw it, like to see an NFL team be that bad for an entire half.
Yeah.
I mean, not one of those drives ended on a positive. Not a single one.
Well, and you see 7 turnovers, block punt, and turnover on downs in the red zone, and it's honestly shocking that they only lost this game 39-10. I mean, this could have been a 60-plus point blowout when you have that many negative offensive possessions. I mean, so that if there's any good to take out of this, which there's not much, but you got to give some credit to the defense for at least, kind of that bend but don't break, holding to field goals when they, when the offense gave up the ball deep in their own zone, and the defense kind of played valiantly. When you look at this box score, you don't see that because you 39 points, but basically the situations they were put in, they deserve some credit for at least making this somewhat respectable, I guess.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Well, yeah, we're just grasping at straws to find something to build upon because this is just a bad. I mean, yeah, the defense didn't do nearly as bad as the offense, but it's not like they were taking names.
No. I mean, you have, like I said, you have that 1 interception from Gordon on a nice play right before the end of the half after Rivers had just turned it over, and so that was nice. But other than that, it was a very mediocre performance, but at least they were able to keep him in it. I mean, is there anything, Coach, you do take away positive from this? I don't know how you do, but is there anything?
I mean, for a coach, you always have to find the positives. On this one, it's hard. It truly is hard. Like I don't think I've ever really been. I don't want to say just heartened because I'm not like 100% like bought in. Like, I will die in this hill with the Chargers or whatever. But it's like this was just I almost feel embarrassed to see what the product was on Sunday. It was I almost feel embarrassed.
Yeah, it ends up being their first loss by more than one possession, and rightfully so. So, we're going to try to – we started this segment last week where we give 2 game balls to the team. We're going to give it a shot. I don't know. No one's really deserved of a game ball. Obviously, if this was a professional locker room, no game balls would be given out. But this is our own podcast. This is Believe in LA Football with the Coach and the Don, so we're going to still try. So – well, Coach, take a whack at it. Is there anyone you're giving a game ball to in this one?
Just because he's been around a while, and I thought he's stepped in and been a leader from day one. We saw him at training camp. We've both kind of grown up watching this guy. But Thomas Davis, he's been the seasoned veteran of this defensive group, and at times been the vocal leader and a lead by example kind of guy. I think he's been huge for this defense. He was a really big addition, underrated addition during free agency. So I'm gonna throw a bone to Thomas Davis. Yeah,
it's fair. Yeah, definitely a veteran leader, veteran presence. Always plays his butt off. You know what you're gonna get from Thomas Davis every single game, and he doesn't let you down. So, if you had to give one out in this game, I think he would deserve one. The guy I'll give one to, who had a decent game as far as individual statistics, Derwin James finished the day with 9 tackles, was in on a lot of plays, had some big plays down the stretch, but fortunately, obviously, it wasn't enough. No game-changing plays, but, the guy played well, and it's still a second-year guy that is arguably the best, if not second-best player on this defensive unit. So at least the future's bright with him, and he continues to show out since he's come back from injuries. So, if I had to give one, he'd be a guy I think is at least worthy of it.
Yeah, no, I like that. Can't argue with that.
Yeah. Anyone on offense?
I'll be honest with you, no, not one. We could say Keenan Allen, but we could say him every week. I'm going to go Michael Badgley. He's been
money bags.
Yeah, right. He's been consistent for the Chargers recently, and he's really giving them something that they haven't had. They really haven't had a trustworthy kicker since probably Nick Novak. And I really don't even know how long ago that was. I'm sure there's someone more recently, but
probably Nate Kading, even farther back.
Nate Kading, yeah, he was around. He was a good one too. But yeah, no, I think they got a kicker and the what do they call them? Money bags or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'll throw him a bone as well.
I think
kicker. I that's how bad this game was. I'm giving love to kickers.
Yeah, that shows you how bad it is. If the coach is talking about kickers for more than 30 seconds, this was a bad game. I think he actually filed to copyright the nickname Moneybags, but
as he should.
Yeah, as he should. Why not? But yeah, I guess he only had one field goal, good from 41 yards. Also had an extra point, but it's the first time in a long time you feel any confidence from the guy kicking for the Chargers, which I think is something worth at least mentioning. Like when he's back there, and you can see the leg power he has, and then kick from 41 looked like it would have been good from 65. So. Yeah, I guess. And like you said, Keenan Allen, we could give one probably every week. Finished Sunday, 9 for 99. So he himself had a good game. Mike Williams, again, showed flashes, but then, we were talking pre-show. We finished with 4 receptions for 71 yards and a touchdown. Had 2 really good catches where he's going up and getting it, being that big body that we want to see from him, but, had 9 targets. So you have 9 targets, you only bring 4 down. It's a continual issue with the Mike Williams saga. And until we see true consistency from him and a go-to receiver, he's not that yet. So, yeah, we'll just stick with the 2 defensive guys and Moneybags in this game.
I like it.
Which isn't
much.
I
think they're all very well deserving.
Yeah, those 3, I guess. So, but tough loss for the Chargers, whose season was already in the balance, already over, but you still want to see the team compete. Before we move on, does this have any effect, you think, on Coach Lynn moving forward? Or is he still at this point safe?
I think he's going to be safe. I don't know. Many more performances like this, you got to start looking at the coaching because you always want to get your guys motivated to play and stuff like that. And just the way they looked in the entire second half, it wasn't just like a little glimpse of they're just having a bad run. No, like it was the entire second half. We talked about it. So if that happens, then these next couple weeks, then yeah, I think he needs to start worrying. But this is the first time I really feel like everything was really, really bad.
Well, and last question for you, since you do coach, at the high school ranks, 7 turnovers. Obviously, Anthony Lynn's not out there the one throwing the ball, running the ball. But does some of that responsibility fall on Lynn's shoulders, or is that purely poor execution by these professional athletes, and it falls solely on Rivers and Gordon and Henry?
It falls on the players for one, but at this level, I don't know how much ball security you want to work on with these guys. At this point, you think they should have that, kind of sorted out. But for something like that, yeah, you start to look at the position groups. What are they doing wrong? What are they not focusing on? At least in my, at the level I'm at, and probably college too. Again, I don't know how much that's a focal point in the pros, but But anyway, yeah, not really head coach. I guess if he wants to put in the practice plan and stuff like that, make it an emphasis. But it's more on individual coaching when it comes to that.
Well, and I think I agree with you, but I think it also, where it does fall on the head coach would be accountability. And, obviously you don't want to just bench a quarterback like Rivers for a performance like that. But, it's getting to a point now with how many interceptions Rivers thrown. I feel like a broken record. We talk about it every single week as he's just not putting his team in a position to win, and he was responsible alone for, I think, 5 turnovers with 2 fumbles and 3 picks. So, or he had 1 fumble and 2 picks, so 4 total turnovers just from Rivers. So that's a little bit on head coaching where it's like, yeah, you're asking a guy to either bench or scold the face of the franchise, but at some point, like, enough is enough. But it's hard in the season being now 5-9. What do you really have to gain by doing that? So I don't know. It begs the question, just what really to do with Rivers at this point. But 2 games left. I think he's going to finish the year, and then we'll reassess in the offseason and go from there. But I agree with you in the sense that I think Anthony Lynn is safe. I just think there's been a lot of other factors that have gone to this team, but this game definitely should leave a bad taste in the mouth because that was a very lackluster, bad performance overall by top to bottom by this Chargers organization.
Yeah, I agree.
So, well, speaking of lackluster, we're about to get to that again with the Rams. But before we do, Coach, talk about our friends and how they can help everyone out there earn some extra money.
Yeah, I would be glad to, man. It's an exciting time for sports. You got sophomore sensation Lamar Jackson, who's redefining what it means to be a dual threat quarterback in the NFL. Odds on Jackson to win the MVP race were at 50-1 to begin the season, and they've plummeted since, making MyBookie's prop selection more attractive than ever. Without a doubt, people are going to be looking to get in on the action, and we have the best place for you to go, MyBookie. If you're the kind of guy who likes to bet a little to win a lot, try a parlay. For instance, if you like a couple of the big favorites this week, parlays are perfect because they let you bet multiple games together for a much bigger payout. MyBookie has more lines and better odds for the player than any other sports book around. If you join right now, MyBookie will match your deposit halfway, all the way up to $1,000. That means if you deposit $2,000, you get an extra $1,000 in free money to play with. All you have to do is use our promo code BLV to activate the offer. Once again, that's promo code BLV to get your extra cash from MyBookie. Bet, win, get paid.
Thank you, sir. And yes, if you are an LA football fan, which I assume you are, you listen to this show, you might not be looking forward to the playoffs, as both teams perhaps may not be in it, but you can go to MyBookie and at least keep the games exciting. I actually went 3 for 3 on 3 different parlays this weekend, Coach. I had a good betting weekend for me on MyBookie.
Well, hey, good for you, man. That's
3 for 3.
We were talking last week about how you need to start doing that, and look, it's already paying off.
Yeah, 3 separate parlays. So if you need help advice too, we actually do some parlay and betting articles on LAFBnetwork.com. So shameless plug there, but you can check that out. Go to LAFBnetwork.com/betting, and you'll get a little advice there that you can use on MyBookie. So cool. Well, all right, Coach. Well, from the sad and depressed to perhaps even the more sad and depressed, because the Rams really had a shot to take down the Cowboys and almost control their own destiny. Almost, not quite, but have a very good shot still at the playoffs, and they just went to Dallas and laid a complete egg in this one.
Yeah. Yep. Another ugly game. Another one that wasn't really fun to watch unless you're, the other team's fan. But yeah, another big disappointment. The Rams and Chargers were not really the Chargers, but the Rams were playing for a lot this week, and the Rams needed the Chargers to act like they were playing for a lot this week, and neither team came through.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter what the Chargers did because the Rams needed to win regardless, and that didn't happen.
No, and this one, when we talked about the Chargers, I mentioned, they didn't look good from the onset, but at least the score was still all right. Like, even with that horrible turn of events at the half, still only being down 19-10, whereas this game, it was 21-7. Rams had the ball with a minute 16 left, and then Jared Goff, there's a very untimely interception, which he seemed to do a lot this year, which sets up the Cowboys in the red zone, and then a critical penalty on third down gives the Cowboys first and goal, and they score a touchdown to go up 28-7 at halftime. And that just, when you're down 28-7 at half, we talk so much on this show about, McVay sticking to the game plan, feeding Todd Gurley, making him the focal point of the offense. And unfortunately, when you're down 27 at halftime, it basically takes your best player away right off the get-go.
Yeah. If you get down that quickly, I mean, not really that quickly, but yeah, if you get down that big at any point in the game, you have to abandon your running game.
Yeah, which they essentially did. Gurley ran the ball 11 times for 20 yards. No carries for Malcolm Brown. No carries for Dale Henderson. Goff had 3, I guess, technical runs. Most of them were obviously not designed scrambles. So 14 total rushes in this game. Do you think they should have still stuck with it a little bit more, or was it, like you said, 28-7, you're basically all-out aerial attack at that point on?
Yeah, it's hard to make that argument when you're down at halftime that big to really stick with it that much longer, because what are you gaining from it? At that point, it's kind of almost your enemy because you're just chewing clock that you need to squeeze every bit of juice out of. So, yeah, it's hard to make that argument that they should have stuck with it for very much longer. There's not really much you can do at that point. You need to go on a big scoring run, and just running the ball is not really how you do that.
Yeah, it was just frustrating because they made the Cowboys, who have really struggled this year, look like the Super Bowl contender that you predicted at the beginning of the year. You should have obviously not been happy. Obviously, we're pulling for the Rams. We covered the Rams, but on the from a selfish standpoint, you're like probably sitting there thinking, well, this is the Cowboys team I thought they were going to be all season.
Yeah. It was, I guess, bittersweet. The Cowboys probably will make the playoffs, but they're going to get shellacked by whoever makes it. But yeah, a little bit of me was kind of like, finally we get to see some good football from Dallas.
Yeah. As of right now, if the season ended today, the Cowboys would face the 49ers, which I think the Cowboys would get manhandled in that one. But, well, we will not talk about that for now. Well, I want to do something different, Coach. We're going to do, in 2019 culture, it seems when things don't go your way, the easiest thing to do is blame someone else. We're in a culture of non-accountability and, pointing the finger at someone else. And so we're going to do that right now on this segment. We're going to share a little humble or blame pie, if you will. So let's talk about who's to blame for this loss. Not for the whole season, not for the Rams being 8-6 and most likely on the outside looking at the playoff picture, but just coming into this game in a must-win scenario, had a lot of momentum after 2 big wins. Who's to blame for this, not just loss, but blowout, decisive loss at the hands of the Cowboys? I'll let you we have our own pies. I made my pie, but I'll let you start with your biggest piece of the blame pie.
Yeah, I don't know how specific we wanted to get here, but I think a large part of that blame pie, I'm going to go at least 3/4. I'm going to go 75% of this needs to go against the pass rush. 0 sacks on Dak. They took him down 0 times. Now, granted, Cowboys were up big. They started to run the ball. You can't get sacks when the other team's running the ball. I get that. But I just felt like the D-line for the Rams were kind of being controlled and put wherever they wanted to be put by the Cowboys offensive line all game.
Yeah, I mean, you could make that too. The pass rush just / defensive line in general, when they have 2 running backs both over 100 yards, Zeke with 2 touchdowns, Pollard with 1 touchdown. So you're giving up 100 and almost 50 or 200 and almost 50 yards on the ground. So yeah, you look at that pass rush, defensive line in general, a very, very poor game for them.
Yeah. I'll just lump it in as 75% defensive line.
All right, that's a big piece of your blame pie. What kind of blame pie you have in there? Pecan pie, apple pie?
You know what? I'm probably doing a mixture of both. Probably seeing what Aaron Donald's favorite is. Make sure he gets a couple pieces. Seeing what Sebastian Joseph Day's favorite piece is. Make sure he gets his own sliver. Everybody deserves a piece.
Okay, there you go. Fair enough. And they'll be fairly big pieces, fairly large pieces if it's 75%. Well, I'm gonna have to cut mine a little thinner. But for 50% of my blame pie, I'm going to give it to just the entire defense. I'm going to go even more broad than you. Just the defense as a whole just looked like they never got off the bus. And what's more demoralizing and more upsetting is, just 2 weeks ago in primetime, I guess now 3 weeks ago in primetime against the Ravens, this defense got absolutely shellacked by, Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. And then, they look like they really bounced back against the Cardinals and obviously last week against the Seahawks. And so we talked about how, okay, this is a defense. You throw out 2 games against the Buccaneers and the Ravens, and this is a defense averaging only giving up about 15 points a game, right around that, good enough for like top 3 in the league. So they're onto something here. They need to be talked about as an elite unit, as one of the top-tier defenses that's really not getting talked about. We kind of praised them all week. And then here they go coming into a big game, must-win game, and just didn't show up, giving up 44 points that, no sacks, like you mentioned, no turnovers. At least I don't think any turnovers that I can remember while watching it. I closed my eyes a lot throughout that game because it was painful to watch. But and just were missing tackles, just looked uninspired. They were giving up buco yards to Tony Pollard, who's not even the starter, not even, he's not Zeke, he's a rookie. So just all around, 50% of the defense, there'll be, sliver pieces because I got to give 11 of them out, but they're all very deserved because of how bad they all played as a collective unit.
Yeah, no, hard to argue that. Defense did not show up.
No, and yeah, it's just disappointing because, what happened to the Ravens, you're like, okay, this team is going to turn the corner. They want to make a shot at the playoffs, and it's time for them to really prove themselves as a top unit, and this was an opportunity for them to do that, and they absolutely did not. So, all right, you got 25% of your pie left to give out.
Yeah, and 15% of that, when you got a game like this, any loss is probably going to it will probably get blamed on the head coach. This one's no different. Sean McVay is going to get 15% of that. The blame pie, as we are calling it.
Yep.
Anytime you get blown out, and this is what this was. This is a blowout. What was your game plan? What was your preparation? And with a pivotal situation, playoffs on the line, the rest of your season's on the line. Now you're putting yourself in a really bad position after this loss. Sean McVay, I just don't really understand how something like this could happen. A close loss is one thing, but you have to look at how the team was prepared.
Yep, 100%. I will just stick with you. I need to say too much about it. I have 20% of my blame pie going to Sean McVay. It all comes down to preparation, and when you get blown out of the barn, it falls on the shoulders of the head coach. We had last week on the show, we had Connor Livesay of SB Nation's Blog and the Boys, and he talked extensively. It was kind of almost refreshing for us because he was basically just talking about how bad the Cowboys have been and how bad Jason Garrett's been and how he's on his way out, and kind of just saying how he's the lesser coach in this matchup. And he came out and he basically kicked McVay's ass and he really outcoached him in every facet of the game, and really, I mean, he's coaching for his job, but he proved that at least this week. We'll see, it'll probably be a different story for the Cowboys next week, but in this one, he coached very, very well. And unfortunately, McVay did the exact opposite, and the team just looked completely unprepared, and we're just totally outmatched in this one. So, yeah, McVay, for me, gets 20% of my blame pie.
Yeah, cannot argue that at all.
Yeah, so you got, what do you got? We're both really bad at math.
Left.
You got 10% left, okay.
Yeah.
Are you giving that to one, or are you splitting that up?
I'm going to give it to one. We could talk for days on who we could probably blame for this. Everybody could probably take a little bitty piece. But I'm going to be less generous, if we could call it that.
Okay.
I'll go Jared Goff. I mean, it's tough. It seems like the cop out, easy way out, just an easy answer, easy finger to point. But man, you're the quarterback. It's your job to get this offense going. It's your job to get the spark. Even though, game plan wise, if you're not the focal point when you get down 20-7, it's time to take your team over and do what they drafted you to do. And when you're the number one overall pick, yeah, he gets a lot of flack. And I mean, he's not the best quarterback in the league, but dang it, you're the leader of this offense, and you can't be doing this. You're less than a year away removed from the Super Bowl. And you can't have your guys coming out flat like this. He has to have a little bit of accountability on his shoulders as well.
Dadgummit, Goff. Yeah, really does need to. I also am giving him 10% of my blame pie. You hit the nail on the head. I feel like we defend Goff quite a bit on this show. I think we've said it like it is. We don't sugarcoat it. We don't build him up, but we've said he's a good quarterback, probably not a great quarterback, but certainly not a bad quarterback. And his ability is going to depend on game plan and scheme fit. And, whether you want to call that a system quarterback, call it what it is, but he's going to be good based on kind of his surrounding players and the plays getting called for him. And it's time, though, in games like this where he needs to step up, especially with that elite contract. And when you're down 28-7, you want to see him come out of that second half with a little bit of gumption and put the team on his back and able to say, okay, our running game is gone, 20-7. That game, we can't do it anymore. I'm putting the team on my back, and I want to prove myself, my worth, and at least go out there and make this game competitive. And it wasn't the second half. They put up, a late touchdown to make it 44-21, or else it would have been even lower scoring. So, yeah, 10% to Goff of my blame pie. So you're done. Your pie's all been eaten now, yeah?
Yeah, I'm sold out. I am out of pie.
You're out of pie. Okay, well, I got 20% left to give. It's the giving season. It's the Christmas season. So I'm going to give 2 more slices of my blame pie away. And 10% of that I'm going to give to defensive coordinator Wade Phillips. I probably could have lumped this in just with the 50% I gave the defense, but I wanted to single him out. I know it maybe sounds a little harsh, a little rude, but Wade Phillips, love the guy. It seems like seems like an awesome guy. He is one of the great defensive minds in the game. But as I mentioned with the defense, this was another big game after getting blowout on primetime to the Ravens, and this was a time for him to game plan against this Cowboys team, and it just looked like there was no game plan. A lot of it I know is execution and things of that nature, but some of that has to fall on the defensive coordinator when you're giving up 44 points to a Cowboys team that really has not scored many points, at least their last 3 games where they lost all 3 of them. So, yeah, Wade Phillips, kind of a guy that no one talks bad about, with rightfully so, with his career and just kind of what he's meant to this team and being kind of the almost grandpa figure of this coaching staff. But, it's time he does get a little flack because in the big moments, this defense has not shown up.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, he is not above criticism and he's not above blame. That's for sure.
Yeah, I've heard some murmurs, and we won't go down this too far because I haven't confirmed anything. But I've heard murmurs if when the season ends, if the Rams do miss the playoffs, they should look elsewhere for a new defensive coordinator. I'm just telling you that for the first time. Would you think that's true at all? Would you agree with that, or is that just, after a bad week, people just trying to start stuff?
No, I think after a season like this, I'm not considering call it a bad season, but it was a bit of a hangover season. And depending how they end, I don't think there's any. I think after every single year, after a Super Bowl year, I think you need to sit down and comb through your roster, comb through your staff, and there's never a place where a team can feel like they cannot improve anymore. So even if, to answer your question in a very political way, yeah, I think they should. I think they should do that regardless with every single person on the roster and every single person on the staff. Is this the best possible candidate for this job? And if Wade Phillips isn't, then yeah, let's move on, get someone else. But if he is, yeah, no need to not retain him.
Yeah, and I love Wade Phillips. Always have. I think he just seems like such a fun, cool guy. His players love him. They love playing for him. But there is a reason, unfortunately, that he, as a coordinator, has never coached at a team more than 4 years. If you look at his resume, almost every single job he's had as a coordinator has been in that 2 to 3 to 4 range tops. And so, me and you both love history. We're history buffs, and you don't want history to repeat itself, but clearly throughout his career, it kind of has, because he hasn't lasted anywhere longer than that. So I don't know if that just means his schemes get, offenses catch up to it, and they kind of know he's very cut and dry, and they know how to game plan for it, or if it's GM's not giving him the right pieces to utilize in his system. But, here he would be going into his 4th season as the coordinator. So, yeah, time to evaluate, I guess. We'll see. But the last piece of my blame pie, and it kind of goes in perfectly with the last thing I said, but I'm going to give it to Les Snead, GM. Here's a guy that, again, has gotten a lot of credit for what he's basically the turnaround of this team after the Jeff Fisher era and bringing in Sean McVay and having 3 winning seasons in a row and going to the Super Bowl in just that 3rd year. And but unfortunately, I think the way he's constructed this roster, there's not a lot of depth. There's very little optimism of the future, because this is kind of the roster that they'll be stuck with, because very little draft capital. And so when you look at games like this against Cowboys, against the Ravens, big-time matchups that this team just falls flat on their face, even dating all the way back to the Super Bowl, it just fell flat on their face, and unfortunately there's not a lot they can do to turn it around. And a lot of it does kind of fall on the GM, who's made some big swings, and a lot of them were praised right out of the gate, and now we're kind of seeing that, I don't know, this team may be regressing, and there's not a lot they can do to change that.
Yeah, no, very good points there. This defense has too many young parts to it to where they shouldn't be one of the best units in the league for the next 4, 5, 6 years.
Yeah, I do agree that the defense does have a lot of talent and a lot of optimism on it. And even their older veteran pieces they have guys behind them that will be able to step in and have stepped in this year. So that I think is okay. It's more the offensive unit that you look at and you're like, okay, how bad the offense has been this year, how pedestrian it has as it's been, and there's not a lot they can do to change that. So my last blame piece goes to GM Les Snead. That's
a good one, yeah.
So there you have it. There's the end of the blame pie. I guess we can move on from that. I mean, should we give out any game balls? I know we struggled with the Chargers, but should we try? Is there anyone deserving with the Rams?
Man, if there's someone that just leapt off the page, I would say, yeah, let's do it. But it'll be very similar to the Chargers. We're just grasping at someone to give it to.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if anyone at all I would give to, and I think I gave it to him last week, but I'll go Tyler Higbee, 12 receptions, 3rd game in a row over 100 yards. He's really flourished with Gerald Everett being out of the lineup, or he's really seized his opportunity in the receiving game. So good game had by him, but that's basically the lone bright spot on pretty much the entire team.
Yep, definitely has that next man up mentality. So yeah, good for him.
Yeah, you didn't want to give another special teamer a game ball, continue down your streak after giving Moneybags one?
No, I'm good for today. Mm-hmm. I've met my quota.
All right, Johnny Hecker, 55.8 yard average on punts, 1 for 1 in the passing game for 5 yards. If you want it, I'm throwing it up. I'm lobbing it up to you.
No, I'm good. The last person I want to give an award to is a punter.
Okay, there you have it. So Tyler Higbee, the lone game ball from the coach in the Don. Yeah, rough game for the Rams. Technically still alive, sitting at 8-6. They have the Niners next week. We're actually going to have Eric Davis, former Niner and current host of Believe in the Niners. He's going to join us to help preview that game. in what will basically be a season fate-deciding game for the Rams. If they win out and get some help, still a shot. But after this week, I don't know if this team is even a team that would want a Week 1 division matchup in the wild card weekend matchup, because it may end up a lot like this last weekend.
Yeah, no kidding.
So, all right, we'll regroup. We'll talk Thursday. We'll preview that, try to turn this pessimism into a little more optimism, and hopefully finish the season strong for the Rams. And, even if they don't make the playoffs, finishing 10-6, there'll be a lot more positivity heading into the offseason. But we'll stay pessimistic for now. We'll get to the optimism side on Thursday. Sound good?
Sounds wonderful.
Excellent. Cool. So, we're going to end the show today with some more XFL Wildcat talk. Excited to do our next player profile. So we originally, as we mentioned kind of in the beginning of the show and preface, we were going to profile defensive end Sean Oakman. And while we were recording, right in the middle of this, we were updated that, we haven't confirmed it yet, so we're not breaking this necessarily as a news story, but just didn't see the need to profile him, if this is true, that Oakman was being released by the Wildcats. Crazy.
Yeah, that's how fast things can change, not only in life, but pro football. But yeah, so we'll keep y'all as updated as possible. But yeah, as of right now, it's kind of up in the air if Oakman's even a Wildcat.
Yeah, because it's such a new league, there's not a ton of media on this, which is kind of cool, which is why we have such a good opportunity with it and, are able to have such close proximity to the team and to the coaches. So we'll get that confirmed for you, and I'm sure we'll confirm it by Thursday. But so anyway, because of the impending cloud over what's going on there, we decided we will profile a different player who is currently for sure on the roster, and that is wide receiver Nelson Spruce, who was, Coach, he was taken with like their third pick, wasn't he, in the draft?
Yeah, he was a pretty early pick. I know Elijah Hood went technically drafted first.
Yeah.
But Nelson was pretty close behind him.
Yeah, right there. So Nelson Spruce, kid I loved. Actually, when we did our mock draft for the XFL, I had the Wildcats taking Nelson Spruce. So I was stoked when he came. He had a prolific high school and college career. He's a hometown kid from Westlake Village, California. Played his high school ball at Westlake High School. And during his time in high school, he finished with 149 receptions, 2,795 yards, and 37 touchdowns. So had a very, very good high school career. He was ranked by Scout.com as a top 10 receiver coming out of California. And he left the state of California to go to kind of Los Angeles East in Boulder, Colorado, to attend the University of Colorado and be a Buffalo there. And he had even more prolific career while he was playing for the Black and Gold. He set 41 Colorado records. 41. Coach, we were enamored just kind of researching this because I don't even know what 41 records he could hold. But he does. He has 41 of them, 37 outright, 4 tied. He also has 2 Pac-12 conference records as he exited his career as the most prolific receiver in Colorado University history. Among the top records he's set, he leads with receptions with 294, receiving yards with 3,347, and touchdowns with 23. He finished as the active NCAA leader in receptions, caught at least one pass in the final 38 games, and he has the second longest streak in CU history, had 2 or more catches in 37 of those games. So just an unbelievable collegiate career, and had some stints in the pros. I'll let you take over now and kind of what he did after college, after his great time with the Buffaloes.
Yeah. Even though he had a really stellar college career, he did go undrafted, unfortunately, in 2016. So he's still a younger guy. But he did land here locally, as we tend to see a lot of these XFL Wildcats guys do, at some point spend time with Chargers or Rams. Mm-hmm. Spruce was a member of the Rams as an undrafted free agent. He was on the roster for a couple years and then bounced around a little bit, spent time on practice squads with Chicago, Chiefs, and then he is also on the Chargers as well. So he's kind of had camps in both, or foots he's had feet in each LA team's camp.
There you go.
There, I got it.
There you
Finally.
go.
Thank you. And then he spent time with the San Diego Fleet in the AAF, and now here he is as a draftee of the LA Wildcats. So I think this guy is probably going to come into this league with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. Kind of looking forward to seeing what he brings to the table for the Wildcats.
It all comes full circle. Hometown kid, and it's good to see him back in an LA uniform. I don't know if you remember this when he was in Rams camp back in 2016 and had one of the more remarkable preseason games that of recent memory. Had just a game where he went off. I want to say it was against the Dallas Cowboys, ironically enough, in the Coliseum. It may have been the first game for the Rams here in Los Angeles, if I'm all remembering this correctly. And, there were the Spruce chants in the Coliseum. Unfortunately, he ended up getting injured and was never really able to get healthy again, so was eventually released by the team. And as you mentioned, since with other teams, then we actually met him at Chargers camp, ironically enough, last season, which was kind of cool, seeing him there. And, I'm like, oh, that's Spruce from when he was with the Rams, and Spruce, and you hear chants too at camp. So it's great to see him now in another LA uniform with the Wildcats, and I expect him to have a very, very good season and probably put up some really good numbers.
Yeah, I think he'll be one of those go-to receivers in this league. I'm sure you'll see a lot of these guys start to emerge. I think Nelson Spruce will be one of these guys.
Yeah, I'm honestly been surprised he did not end up making an NFL roster just with how he was in college. He's not necessarily a slow guy. Ran a 4.69 at the combine, so it's not obviously blazing speed, but it's not a slow time. So, you can still be serviceable with that. So, but, I think they got a good one, and it'll be fun to watch and cover him for the Wildcats. So there's your second profile here on Believe in LA Football.
I like it. A little impromptu, but it was good nonetheless.
Yeah, a little impromptu with the old Oakman news. So we'll keep you posted on that. But there you get to know at least probably one of the top 3 receivers on this depth chart, we would presume. But as the depth chart kind of grows or comes more to fruition, we'll know more on that and keep you posted on that. So, well, Coach, thank you for another good Monday episode. Obviously a little more pessimism in this one, but I still good nonetheless. Yeah,
for sure. And we're going to have weeks like these, and obviously with the Chargers and Rams, neither one probably going to make the playoffs. It's still an exciting time, and there's still a lot of stuff to talk about and discuss, and we're going to be here for it every inch of the way.
That's right. So we'll be back at it on Thursday for some previews. Like I mentioned, we will have Eric Davis, former San Francisco 49er and current host of Believe in 49ers, join us to preview that Rams-Niner game in a very, very important pivotal matchup for both teams. We'll obviously preview the Chargers game, and then we'll do some more college and XFL talk. So, Coach, thanks as always. Appreciate it.
Yeah, same to you, man.
And thank you, everyone, for listening. Make sure to subscribe wherever you listen. Reach out to us on Twitter, the Coach LAFB, Ryan Dyrud LAFB, or our main page, LAFBnetwork.com. Or if you're not on Twitter, shoot us an email, podcast@LAFBnetwork.com. But enjoy your week. Thanks for tuning in, and we will talk to you on Thursday.
With the holidays just around the corner, now is the time to order holiday cards for family and friends. Only this year, why not create custom holiday photo cards quickly, easily, and affordably at simplytoimpress.com. Simplytoimpress.com is your holiday photo card headquarters with thousands of unique Christmas cards and other designs to choose from. All you do is upload your family photos, personalize the text, and you're done. Simplytoimpress.com prints your cards on your choice of premium cardstock in just a few days and rushes them straight to your door. Maybe that's why the New York Times Wirecutter named Simply to Impress their favorite photo card service. They even offer foil cards and hundreds of great holiday card designs for your business, too. Place your order today to save 30% and get free shipping. Just enter promo code DEAL at checkout. Save big on holiday photo cards today using promo code DEAL at simplytoimpress.com. That's simplytoimpress.com.